There are a handful of deep league streamers, guys that are out there in 95% or more leagues that you can even start, and some other stashes, though. Just a couple quick names for the deep leaguers that I wanted to toss out. The first one being Isaac Guerendo. Pretty impressive in that extended look. We got 10 carries for 99 yards once Jordan Mason was knocked out of that Thursday night football game. And I think all of you, if you're watching, recognize that 76 of those yards came on that end of game scamper where he blazed right through and could have scored, but unselfishly took the dive so the team could bleed the clock the rest of the way. So ultimately, really 9 carries for 23 yards on the night otherwise, but I don't love doing that whole, you take away his biggest play, because this is a big play guy. He reached the 7th fastest ball carrier speed of the season on that, and that's what Isaac Guerendo is known for. DK Metcalf levels of athleticism in terms of size, speed, nightmare. That's what they talked about Kyle Shanahan when they drafted him, is we just don't see people built like this. We're going to have to figure out how to use him. And so far, per Hayden Winks of Underdog Fantasy, 18 of his 23 carries for Guerendo have been on the outside zone. It's kind of similar to how we see Mike McDaniel use A-Chain. They don't love it up the gut. They want to get this guy in space where he can just find that lane and go and shoot out of the cannon. And we saw, again, that impressive ability in any of the running backs getting meaningful volume. Should Jordan Mason miss this week against the Chiefs here, I want any 49ers running back. That's how beautiful the Kyle Shanahan zone blocking scheme is. You get behind Trent Williams and just let him do his thing. And so maybe it's this week where you get a spot start from Isaac Guerendo, and it's coming against the Chiefs. They've given up by far the fewest points to running back, so it's not a great matchup here. But this is a different type of scheme. It's much harder to defend. And so I would have a lot of interest in stashing Isaac Guerendo should I have Jordan Mason and need that kind of running back situation. Really, if I just need any type of running back startability, he brings a little bit more right now upside than a lot of those stash names we talked about. Another guy that's showing up on a lot of lists here, I'm just adding in the banner here, somehow missed this one. So one other guy that I wanted to bring up out there in 99% of leagues, but likely on your radar after this humongous last week, that is Sean Tucker. Again, 99% available. We thought this week, Bucky Irving's show, here it comes. Oh, wait, the single highest scorer of last week, not at running back, at every single position, was Sean Tucker. Pretty absurd. Now, if you pull out garbage time here, I think it was 1 or 2 drives at the end of the game. Irving, according to Dwayne McFarland, still had 70% of the snaps, 40% of the rushes, where Tucker only had 28% at that time. 63% of the routes were going to Bucky Irving, like featured workload. So I'm not panicking necessarily on Bucky Irving. He was the number 1 running back, yet Tucker racked up 192 yards rushing and receiving and 2 touchdowns on the way to a 34.2 fantasy point explosion. And so after the game, Todd Bowles coming out and saying, absolutely, this can be and should be a 3-headed nightmare type of situation. And I mean, could they actually just get rid of Rachaad White? They should. Look at the way these other 2 backs are performing on a per touch basis compared to White. It's not even close how much they are outperforming him, overshadowing him. But I just don't think he disappears. And ultimately, this performance might just be bad news for everybody involved. Bucky Irving gets a little bit more cheese nibbled. Rachaad White, how could you ever trust an inefficient guy that's now losing even more of his volume? I still think it's worth a stash, though. Seeing what Tucker could do, he just popped. He looked huge. He's bulldozing people. He had great speed, a solid pass catcher, and yet another one of those guys that you just love to root for. One of those kind of comeback stories here. So Sean Tucker, certainly in the deeper leagues and even in shallower leagues, like a worthwhile bench stash for right now, and pretty playable should Rachaad White miss another game. Now, the last name, and this is for, again, those deep leaguers. No, not my league guy. Well, I'm guessing that Audric Estime is out there for you, and I could see him this time next week. Everybody scrambling to pick him up after a Thursday night eruption. Maybe, just maybe, we shall see. We've had Javonte Williams yet again, the 4th time this season, averaged less than 4 yards a pop. 5th time this season, Julian McLaughlin averaged less than 4 yards a pop. Javonte Williams fumbles yet again. And after the game, we have Sean Payton saying, quote, "We are a young team, and I want to see this runner as well. I want to see Estime," when asked about the young players on his offense. And so far, we've only seen Estime for 5-ish snaps on the year. On them, though, he's gotten 4 carries for 27 yards, a nice 6.8 yards a pop. That's nearly double Javonte Williams, who has a 3.6 yards per carry on the season. The Broncos, when you take away the quarterback rushing of Bo Nix, who has about 30 rush yards per game. The Broncos are averaging 77 rushing yards per game from their running backs. That is dead last in the NFL right now. They need a spark. Estime is an absolute bruiser, 240 pounds. It didn't test well with his speed, but then timing-wise, if you look at his production at Notre Dame, was an absolute bell cow, absolute workhorse. Can catch the ball, even though he wasn't really relied upon it so much in college. Would not shock me at all if we saw him just come out and get 15 carries on Thursday night, and suddenly everybody's scrambling to pick him up. A talent I definitely believe in. Reminds me a lot of Ray Davis and what we just saw from this bowling ball, no nonsense. I'm going to come batter you into submission. That's the type of guy Audric Estime is. So I'm a big fan of his game. And I think, again, someone to get ahead of if you have a bench spot, a deep league, one of those 16-man leagues, check out Audric Estime. Well worth the spot on your roster. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.